open up just by introducing you to some of our experts, and a lot of people will actually know you guys. And so I'll talk just quickly about first. We welcome Megan Jarvis. She's a member of the Professional Speakers Association of Australia and presents at national and international conventions. Megan's professional background includes sports scientist and kinesiologist, co-founder and CEO of Buzzville. And you might recognise Megan from the first Australian Ninja Warrior series. The next lady that we'd like to talk about is lovely Eddie Griffin, or Edwina. Eddie's a keynote speaker and trainer on resilience, emotional intelligence and dispute resolution, and has over 25 years experience working with clients in the areas of health and high performance. The company at One specialises in technology and training to improve mental health, reduce stress and improve performance for staff and athletes. Eddie is the host of her stress relief show on the BizVersity app. The next gentleman, if we can call him a gentleman, I guess, that we bring along is an Aussie larrikin with a strong empathy with people at all levels. He makes people stop, listen and then act. And he has the #1 fitness industry podcast in the world. So JT, Justin Tamsett, international fitness business speaker who builds business strategies with owners to get more people moving. Myself, just a little background very quickly. I'm the owner of 4-Day Fitness Solutions. We supply fitness equipment and wellness equipment throughout Australia. So many years in leadership and various facets of volunteer organisations, sporting teams and in business. So guys, welcome along today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Today, our discussion is really based about the preparedness of reopening. So we'll have a series of questions that we'll talk about. And I guess we just pose some questions, just before we actually start, are you ready? What do people need to do to be ready? And what is being imposed or looks like being the norm in our industry? And what we believe the future will look like. So we have a couple of agendas there, and the idea is that as we move through these things, we'll shoot between each other. We'll have some questions. There'll be some questions come in from other areas, via Facebook and the other mediums. So we'll attempt to answer them as we go along as well. So I guess this is meant to be one of a series of maybe 4. We'll call it our Friday happy hour for the fitness industry, the wellness industry. But I guess, we encourage people just to grab a beer or wine, settle in for, half an hour, listen to what's happening in the fitness industry and what we believe things will need to happen for people to open doors in the next month or so. I guess we might start just by talking just quickly about some whispers that we hear or some information that we've all received. Now, we're all in different states and we're all going to hear different things as we're actually out there. So talking to our clients. So I guess the first one is, have we got an update of an industry update on Australia and globally, if relevant, in relation to COVID-19? And I know, JT, you've just done a podcast in relation to, was it the world, or was it just in USA yesterday? So you might have some updates of some things that are happening around those territories.
Well, let's just start off, and it's Friday afternoon. It's 4 o'clock. It's honest hour. Who would want to live in the United States? Honestly.
Not now. Not
if
right
it was
now.
after 5 o'clock, I'd say, what a blanked up country that is. Honestly, today, the conversations that I've had over the last 7 weeks with business owners over there, we have got clubs in every part of opening to closed. I'll give you a classic example, two classic examples of what's happening in that country. First one is this week, the governor of California said, clubs, you're not opening for another month. And he said that, I think, at like 11 o'clock. The mayor of where Yuba City Health Club is, the mayor of that city, who hates the governor, said, no, gyms can open tomorrow. And so instantly gyms are opening the next day just because the governor hates, or the mayor hates the governor. In another state, the major health club owner in that state is a Trump supporter and has raised money for Trump. And I mean, he's a great guy. Full-on Trump supporter, he doesn't hide it. The governor of that city, of that state, is the opposite end of the spectrum to Trump. And so he has said health clubs will open stage 5, which will be around about September, because he hates the owner of this club. So we really are in such a fortunate place here in Australia that the political football is not being passed around. I really feel that the decisions that the governments are making are pretty valid decisions based on science, medical science, rather than any politicizing of the issue, which is, I think, pretty exciting.
Well, something that you've just touched on there, JT, is that I think, and everybody probably, hopefully here in Australia, realises this is a real thing. That this threat is not just about the health, but it's the economy and the future of of Australians. And over the last number of months, we've seen some pretty crazy things happen around the world. And I think you nailed it here in Australia. And let's talk about New Zealand. I think they've jumped on some on it reasonably quickly, and they've nailed a few things. And as painful as it is that we've had to close businesses and we've had to all stay locked in our houses to a degree, we can all agree that this is something that's kind of had to be done to ensure that we can open again in another month or 2 months, whatever. So. So Megan, you're in Queensland. You the Sunshine State. You may have heard something. That's where we are today and where we're going to be in the next. Is it a week, month, 2 months?
Yeah, Anastasia Palaszczuk was just live an hour ago. So this is impeccable timing, and announced that we're allowed to have outdoor gyms open up to 10 people. And she's currently classifying what that enables us to do, but it means that outdoor training can commence as of next week at midnight. So Friday next week, that's when all of this can really start to kick off again, which bodes really well. And then as Justin was mentioning earlier, I think we have a Queensland opening date of June 12th, was it? So, I mean, right now we're at the stages of how do we get ready? How do we get prepared? What are the next steps? And I think really looking at how do we get our staff motivated? How do we get our clients remotivated are the key critical components right now. I mean, I was just at my gym in Yatla and we're already in discussion with that. So now's the time to really start looking at how are we going to re-engage everybody, both our team and our customers. So it's exciting over here in Queensland at the moment. And it's a beautiful day, but I am sweating a little bit.
And so Eddie, one of the things that we're talking about, do we have any understanding of what we believe the requirements, the regulatory requirements may be? I know there's talk about social distancing. Have we heard anything else from there,
I mean, I think it's been announced in terms of the regulations nationally are standard. So I think as long as that protocol is followed, it's going to be as it has been 1.5 meters, the distancing. I know ACT's releasing, starting, the new conditions from tomorrow, and they're saying, yes, 10 in boot camp, but you can't share equipment. So that hasn't been announced by all states yet. But obviously one of the key focuses is going to be around the hygiene and wiping everything down. And we've got a slightly different environment to most of the recommendations that have been put out. I think we're all aware of for workplaces generally. We've got a slightly different environment because we've sort of got people on equipment and having to wipe down more often. But I think it's, for a fitness industry, going to become a lot more like a hospital environment in terms of the expectations from both public and government in what we have to do, wearing PPE equipment. You know, we now know that it's, well, they think it's contagious airborne, and so that brings a whole nother scale of PPE that may need to be worn by staff, and a lot of precautions we weren't taking prior to lockdown that are going to have to be implemented. From my understanding, I don't know how everyone else sees that.
Yeah, in the Northern Territory, not surprising, the Northern Territory, there are no rules. So the government have actually come out and said, open your gyms, do what you want. We will come in and then we'll decide if you're actually meeting the requirements of safe operations. But they don't really know. And I think in fairness, every government doesn't know. To Fitness Australia's credit, they are speaking with the government, which I think is really good. What we've found in the United States is the individual states where gym and health professionals are consulting free of charge to the government on what those conditions should be. The conditions are way different to the states where there is absolutely no communication between an industry professional and the government. They're far more onerous when the industry is not involved. So I would hope that Fitness Australia is representing everybody appropriately, and if they're not, then as an industry we need to put some pressure on them to make sure that they are talking to each state leader, which, from what I'm aware of, talking to Barry, they are.
Okay, so what do we? Let's say it's time for the gyms to actually start. Okay, as you mentioned, we've all mentioned it's time for them to start thinking about reopening. So we believe that there's probably maybe a month. Some states maybe a little shorter, maybe a bit long. But let's say we've got a month. So in preparation for opening, as an advisory group or a group of people from within the industry, you've been around the industry for a long time, you guys. What do you see as some of the key, most important things that that in relation to opening? I mean, I've got a stack of things written down here, but I mean, if I was walking up to a gym today and the doors were about to open, what should I expect? What's going to give me confidence to come back into a gym?
You go first, Megan.
I mean, the first thing that I believe will become a very common thing, not just in the fitness industry, but in all industries, and this is already starting to unravel in Canada, is that businesses are putting signs on their doors that say 99.9% COVID free based on the hygiene, the cleaning that we're taking part in daily. So there's going to be some form of marketing, advertising that they are doing the proper techniques that the government has asked. And that's going to be really big. Like, once those gyms are implementing the different processes and can make, I mean, in Canada, it's a lot easier. They're able to make those claims right now without getting in any trouble from the TGA, etc. So, I mean, I see signage and cleaning being hand in hand. And then when you go into the actual gym, that's going to be a whole nother discussion point. But I think from what I would believe would make me feel comfortable walking into a gym would be seeing that they're already taking the measures and they've put some sort of sign up that states what they're doing. Basically, they've put something into measure. Maybe it's fogging. Maybe they're using something called ViraClean, which is on the COVID-19 kill list right now. It's actually, we have one product that is on that, and that's used in medical centers, etc. So it's going to be coming back to what kind of research that gym's doing. It'll be interesting to see what they're doing in the Northern Territories and what the government comes in and says they need to do more of. But for myself, I would like to know that it's, you know, getting fogged, for example, which is a type of cleaning that actually goes through and it's airborne and it's cleaning absolutely everything rather than just a wipe down. So
Does it take, you got to wait, have you got to wait 30 minutes after fogging, Megan?
an hour.
Oh, it's an hour.
Yeah, before you.
So that's okay. Like guys, you know, we talk about say fogging. So Justin, all of a sudden, what I see is that you know, there's going to be maybe blocks of time, you know, for a little while, maybe you know, where I need to register to come into my gym. And go in there if we're going to use a fogging type system, that sort of thing, you know, to, and I don't know what the standard's going to be, but, you know, all of a sudden it adds a different dimension to gym land, you know, that I've got a book in to come into my gym that I've had free access to any time of the, you know, within the opening hours, you know, so now you're saying, okay, maybe it's half an hour, maybe it's an hour. So, you know, I guess, you know, moving into the next, like to add on to what you're actually saying there, Megan, is from a client's perspective and the gym owner's perspective, what about marketing? What are we going to do? You know, what's some key things that you guys can throw at us that sort of go, you know, what do we need to do to start talking to our people about, you know, coming back into the gym? I don't know, Eddie, if you've got some thoughts on that, or
I do, to an extent. I saw some stats the other week come out from the UK around loneliness and obviously mental health is a huge factor. I've just read an article about it being a huge issue now in mining industries. It's all come out as that's suddenly become a priority more than it was before. Of course, it's always been there, but I think there's a responsibility. We're calling fitness facilities aren't just fitness anymore. We're all about health and wellness. So that is mental health. That is a priority now. There's huge strain on the economy. The financial stress hasn't gone when we open our doors. You know, I think we're looking at 6 months, and it's not just with the gyms, it's all of our clients are going to be financially stressed for, well, let's say at least 12 months, probably 18 months until we get back to where we were financially. So potentially for most anyway. And there's a lot of stats around this issue of loneliness and mental health that are coming out every day around the country and internationally. So I think, you know, talking to that in marketing is smart. I think people are wanting that connection point. They're wanting to feel part of the community and they're wanting to feel safe. So I think elements of the cleanliness, it's bringing that safety in with the physical assurance of, okay, we're doing all of the cleanliness stuff. We're going to make sure you're not going to, but also mentally, you know, and that'll be smart marketers will bring all of those elements in. But I think we're all craving connection. But the loneliness piece is huge. And I think the online has enabled another point of connection. So I think it's a huge opportunity to bring in more services and see if we can find some other income streams through that.
Yeah, good point. And you know, when we look at it into a gym, quite often we can look at it from a business perspective, and we look at, okay, we're supplying some fitness equipment and people are coming in to get fit. But realistically, there is many aspects to that center, and you know, some people come in just to get fit, some people come in to lose weight, you know, some people come in for that association, you know, and there's, you know, many facets to the business. And you touched on the wellness side of things. I think what's happening is out there in the field today is people are actually looking for more from their gyms. You guys might, you know, add something to that. And you know, I deal with diverse groups of ages, you know, and there's, you know, from the young ones right through. And I see that there's a real movement in the older sector of, you know, they want to stay active and moving, you know, keep that body as supple and as, you know, as they can, you know. So, but what you said was spot on about mental health and that resilience and wellness. So yeah, it's good. So, what about look? One of the things that I have a concern with, you know, and maybe it's re-engaging back with staff. You know, so the business has got to reopen. I mean, how do we re-engage with our staff? Are our staff still going to be there? You know, you know, guys.
Not
you know,
by choice, Richard. There'll be some not by choice.
Yeah. So you're saying it could be an opportunity to shed some.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, but I say that in a positive like that, Justin. I don't mean that negatively. You know, when I say, you know, maybe there's an opportunity there, you've been overstaffed, you know, and in these times, you know, it's a matter of cutting back those staff to meet the demand.
Richard, I actually think I've written down there are really 4 pillars that owners have got to work on over the next 4 weeks. If the opening is going to be for many of the clubs kind of mid-June, we need to look at an operational plan. Like 12th of June, Queensland opens, you can only have 20 people in a club at a time. So you need operationally, how are we going to start that? How are we going to monitor that? How are we going to manage that? So there's a whole plan there. We need to think about our strategic direction. What's our strategy look like? By the way, anyone that tells me that as of the 12th of June when gyms open, that's the new normal, that's bullshit. That is not the new normal. That's pre-new normal. The new normal will in fact be still months away before we get to that. So we need strategic direction there.
Oh, absolutely.
We need a communication plan, and we need a cultural change in our business. We've got to culturally change what our members think happens inside a club, and the big change is going to be with our staff. And as much as I love everybody in the fitness industry, I'm not sure if anyone else agrees with me here, but there are a few people in our industry that have fairly big egos, and those people will not want to clean. But that now becomes your number one job in a club. You are I'm not calling it housekeeping, I'm calling it gym keeping. You've got to be a gym keeper first, and then you're a group fitness instructor. You're a gym keeper first, then you're a salesperson. You're actually a gym keeper first, then you're an owner.
Yeah.
So the members want to see staff cleaning, and if the staff are cleaning, then they're going to clean as well. But if we're not doing it, they're not going to buy into it either. So I think culturally, there's a massive shift that we're going to have to make in our business for those first 90 days. And that's where some people will go, well, I don't want to be a cleaner, or you got to pay me more to be a cleaner. We don't have to pay you more. We're giving you a job. Just your job's changed for a little while.
Yeah.
Or forever.
Yep.
JT, I read an article this morning on Harvard was doing an article about leadership and the senior managers bringing in these new, cultures or policies, and the importance of exactly what you're saying, and training, a real focus on training middle management. So not just senior management coming in and going, this is how it is, but bringing, so this time now, the next 4 weeks, spending time with middle management so that they're on exactly the same strategic page, because some of the research shows if you don't have middle management really involved, really engaged, and really well trained on the same as senior management, then the chance of failure of any change management program is a lot higher. So I think that's and also getting some feedback from your client base, as Richie said, depending on the demographic, if you're training people 55 plus or if you're training people in their 20s, or if it's all of them, what are your members in terms of what's their flexibility around training hours? What can you move and can't you move? And I don't think it's going to be the same for all of us to an extent. The cleaning, yes, but I think in terms of how this is going to roll out, I don't think it's going to be a one size fits all.
I think I honestly believe one of the biggest challenges gyms are going to have is that communication piece between a staff member and a member. I picture this in the gym that I go to, that this could quite easily happen, that there will be vigilante members. And what happens is Eddie gets on a piece of equipment, glowing like a beautiful lady that she is, and leaves her sweat behind on a bench. And then Megan comes over and says, hey, why aren't you cleaning this up? And Eddie goes, well, I don't need to, because you're going to wipe it down before you get on. No, but that's not how we work here in the club. And these are 2 members.
Correct.
And next thing, you two are about to have a wrestle in the club about the cleanliness. And now my poor 18, 19 or 20-year-old staff member has to take off their uniform and put on a black and white shirt and become an umpire between these 2 people that are going to be arguing about cleanliness. They're not trained for that.
Yep.
that's going to be their job.
And that's correct. And one of my points here with this, and maybe Megan or Eddie, you may be able to handle this this question. But when we re-engage our staff, we've got to empower our staff, and so we talk about you talked about management here, and management's got to get on the same page. It's not an us and them, and then the let's call them the junior staff or the lower staff, go, oh, I'm too good to go out and clean the equipment or whatever. If they want to survive, they have to show the community, their clients, that they're serious about this. So what do we do to empower our staff? So we've got to give them knowledge. We've got to give them training. Where do we go? How do we do this? Who's going to lead this, Justin? Is this Fitness First that's going to come up with the training, or is it the government that's going to come up with the training and set the standards and say, who's going to drive this? Because my cleanliness is going to be different to Eddie's cleanliness. My standard is going to be different to Megan's or to yourself. What is there going to be a standard, or is it just going to be you do this?
The standard's going to be set by the members.
Yeah, and I think it's that communication piece again of, I'd be doing surveys and stuff with members now and getting a commitment from them. They need to be involved in the decision and the commitment of, is there, and I don't know the exact answer, but is there room for an agreement when everyone comes back in? Do we offer a webinar for our members, or a survey saying we all want to establish terms of agreement and terms of engagement within our gym, which includes the following cleaning protocols. And as a consequence, if you don't do that, we as a gym and our members decide that this will be the what will happen beyond that.
Eddie, what you've just touched on there is okay, we're engaging with our clients, but the clients are going to come back and say, we want you to do A, B, C, D, and E.
Yeah, I don't think they will, Richard. I think it'll be, I think as Eddie said, it's the communication piece that we're in this together.
Yep.
We're going to do this, but we need you to do this. And together we'll keep the place clean. And Eddie, that's exactly what's happening in the US, is that a lot of clubs are having members, when they come in, sign new codes of conduct.
Mm-hmm. We were just discussing that today, that we're going to do full new gym inductions.
Yeah.
So it's like they're starting from scratch, literally, and they're going through a full gym induction. Anybody who comes in is getting, depending on the time, 15, 20 minutes with one of our personal trainers. And
a classic example of a gym induction that's going to have to happen is you're going to have members that will come in and use a gym wipe every time they get on a single piece of equipment. And from research, one gym wipe can generally last you 3 or 4 pieces of equipment. So you don't need to keep going back to getting another one. You just carry it around with you. So we need to educate them on that. Otherwise, we're going to go broke because we're going to be buying gym wipes for everybody.
Yeah.
But you're right, Megan. We have to do staff training and we've got to do member training.
And just to touch on what both you and Eddie were saying earlier, I think, middle management, yes, but right now is a big time for the leaders to step up and step in and actually get their hands dirty and lead by example. So, I'm going right back into my gym and coaching right now. It's like, and I was so distant from that before, as Eddie knows, and now it's like I'm getting hands-on. Now's the time that, as small business owners, we need to lead by example for the middle management and ensure it's coming from us exactly what we want them communicating to their customers, because otherwise there's going to be a break in the chain. And as you were saying, JT, that's where it really, that's where we're going to see some problems between members and staff, etc. So
you are washing your hands before you get hands-on in the business, aren't you?
Yes, thoroughly. And yeah.
And you sing happy birthday 3 times. Did you know that? So as you wash your hands, you sing happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, and that's acceptable.
And
okay?
then you
that's from Queensland schools.
What drugs you're on.
That's from the schools. The Queensland schools told me that. So there you go.
Hopefully not in that tone, though, Richard. Hopefully.
Oh, no. Well, we could do row your boat, I suppose. Yeah, look, and guys, like, and this is probably a question for Eddie, but you know, I let's say I'm a gym owner. I've got my staff. You know, I need to educate my staff. Okay, I need to have some resources to actually help them to understand, because we've got quite a diverse group of staff, right? From personal trainers to reception, toilet cleaners, whatever we want to call. You know, how do we empower those, and how do we train them? Where do we get resources to actually be able to give them something to read to take them through in a training? Things to look out for, things to do.
I think that we can all contribute to that. I think there's quite a lot in the industry. There's a lot being given away at discounts at the moment to support the industry. And I know there's, you know, we've all, like, I've got online courses in dispute resolution, and I know, you know, the fitness industry network and everyone have had online courses for a while. There's a lot being given away at the moment to help the industry. So I think it's about inquiring, and JT might know more about what is available right now. I'm not in on the ins and outs of exactly what's on offer right now other than my own stuff, but I think there is a lot online available for also with other industries and tastes and things, because everything has had to be online. All of the training facilities haven't been able to operate, so there's a lot of online courses. But I think you know your own team best, and ideally I think if you're a leader yourself, you can often design your own training which is going to be specific and more individual. So I think it comes on different levels. You don't necessarily need online training, but I think it's the awareness of what's needed. I think communication pieces, we've all agreed, is the main thing right now. And from my experience working in companies in, you know, emotional intelligence, it all comes down to communication and awareness and self-awareness and personal development. So depending on your own team and what stage of development they are, I think that's a really personal kind of thing to do. And hopefully the leaders of any business are at a point where they can train the junior staff and be able to empower the middle management to run that. And that's where you can create new roles for people where they feel like there is a positive outcome of all of this for your existing staff. Suddenly I've gone from just being on the gym floor to now I'm a mentor to 3 of the other staff members, and I'm learning how to train and how to present and how to record potentially our own training content. So I think there's a lot of room for growth within the business and a really great team environment amongst team members if you create mentors from that and don't become, I don't think we have to find every solution. You know, bring your team in and go, here's a bit of direction, I'll mentor you on the side, you mentor them, and create a really lovely collaboration and team culture, as JT touched on earlier. But I'm interested to see what everyone else thinks, because I think we will do a bit of that work.
Oh, look, 100%. I think that we've got to remember that we've got different business type people running the organisations. You know, so JT, you know, Egan, you know, am I going to go to Fitness First and collect some of this information? I don't want to be spending time, you know, hunting around through the internet or going to government departments. Is Fitness First going to come up with a package that sort of says this is kind of like what we need to do, or is there somebody in the industry that needs to do that? How can I get hold of that information?
Well, I don't think any one place is where you're going to go. I do think at this time, it's really tough to be going through this alone. Really tough to go through this alone. There are some amazing Facebook groups that you can join that are free. Mel Tempest has a great Facebook group. Daniel Henderson has a great Facebook group. Steve Grant has a great Facebook group.
You have a great Facebook group.
We have a great Facebook group. And that's all free stuff. And people are sharing some good quality stuff in that. URSA have great free resources. Fitness Australia have resources. Franchisees will have access from their franchisor for great resources. But if I could share just quickly, this to me is your greatest resource. And that is a little post-it note. And I would give every team one of these, and every time they think of a question that a member might ask them, they write it down. And then they stick that on a wall. And once a week as a team, you go through and come up what the answer is to that question. Because members will ask more questions than we've ever had before.
Yeah.
And they're also going to ask the same question over and over and over again. So we've got to make sure that we're all saying exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I would call staff training, Richard. So we're working with a client in the States at the moment, and we've got about 120 questions that the staff have to rote learn the answers to, and we are role playing those answers so that when those members come in a month's time, every staff member is saying exactly the same thing. Unfortunately, I don't think there's any escape from that consistency. Megan, am I wrong?
No, I completely agree. And that's what we're looking at too. And all of the resources that you mentioned are absolutely fantastic. From a club owner's perspective, there is the infection control training that you can do on the Australian government website. It takes about 30 minutes and it goes through some basic e-learning, and then it enables you to get a certificate of, read it to you, certificate of acknowledgement that I've completed infection control training by the Australian government. And so—
Is that WorkSafe Australia, Megan? Is that WorkSafe Australia, just to get clear on which government website?
It is from—
Megan, maybe something could be.
I'll find the website exactly. It might be from—
Yeah.
I think it's WorkSafe.
Yeah.
It's worth mentioning which, sorry.
But I'll drop the link in the comments below. I just have the certificate up. But I think that it starts there and starting at the highest level. And I know that Fitness Australia is doing a fantastic job, but ultimately the highest guideline is coming for all industries from the government.
Yeah.
So it's a proactive approach right now. I mean, I haven't seen that on any websites, to be honest. It was just me doing my own research, going, how do I get these clubs, and we're in New Zealand as well, up to a standard that the government appreciates. And it's doing the e-learning courses that are available to us right now. And then going through a very strategic outline, exactly like you mentioned, JT, of how to answer different questions that you're going to get from your members. And enabling and empowering everybody, the staff that are coming back and getting their feet wet into this new arena, that they feel empowered enough to answer those questions. I've started raising them right now. I don't think we need to wait, 2 weeks from now. We know it's coming. So let's start writing down questions that we're going to be getting. Let's get on a Zoom conference call. Let's get the team that we still have together and start strategizing how they best see the workflow going. That's what we've been implementing so far.
Yeah, and that's great. Sorry, Justin. Just what you guys have touched on is in relation to Justin, like you talked about, not going through this yourself. And I don't think we're a competitor against each other against this COVID virus. We're all working together for the same thing. We all want the industry to survive. We all want, the health and wellness game to continue moving forward and people to be confident, comfortable coming into our centres, so and so forth. So, people need to not be frightened to pick up the phone or to jump in on a Zoom conference or, some of these links that are coming out there and just and ask the questions, because we're all going through the same thing. And, But Justin, you were just about, I cut you, mate, you were just about to say something there.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Eddie a question, actually. I think one of the challenges when we think about staffing, Eddie, is that we talk a lot about members feeling comfortable coming into the gym, but we've also got this challenge around staff coming into the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all on JobKeeper. So at the moment, well, not all of them, but some are on JobKeeper. And at the moment, we have no members. So all of a sudden, we now, in a month, we start to have members coming in. How do we as leaders sit down in an empathetic way and have a conversation with a staff member who says, you know what, I don't feel comfortable coming into the gym? Because in all reality, if they don't come into the gym, they're probably going to lose their job. Because we're open for business. And if you're not coming in to do your shift, so from a really pragmatic perspective as an owner, we're being put in a hard position. But from a moralistic perspective, I kind of understand what you're saying. How do you think we emotionally deal with that?
Well, I think that's a really interesting point, JT, and not one I'd thought of. And I think that's a very broad statement. So I think that suggests to me that there's a fear there and there's some questions not answered on their part. So that requires a lot more questions on why they feel that way. What security do they need? What do they need from us to make them feel safe to go to work? Right. Yeah. What do their family need? You know, maybe it's not just them, maybe it's their family, and what reassurance and what protocols do we need to put in place to enable them to feel that it's a safe environment? Because I think the statement in itself is very broad, and it may be that between your team members that differs. And that in itself is perhaps, it's a really great thing to bring up, because that may bring up a whole lot of things we hadn't considered that will happen with our members ahead of time. So it's a great conversation to be having prior to opening. And yeah, as I said, I hadn't thought of that happening.
You certainly don't want to have that conversation on the 11th of June in Queensland, knowing you're opening on the
Exactly.
You know, you got to be having this conversation now.
Yeah.
Are you going to be comfortable? What do we need to put in place so that you are comfortable? I like those extra probing questions to find that information out. I think that's a little gold nugget for everybody that's watching right there.
And I think though, JT, one of the ways to engage the staff well in advance, and through a conference similar to this, and asking them, what is it that their fears are, their questions are, and sort of say you have that preparedness moving into this. If we can, as leaders, if we can empower our staff, right, then they can instill confidence in their clients coming back in. And if we can't do that as leaders, then our members are going to come in there and they're going to be a little hesitant, just quietly, Yeah, so it's a little chicken and the egg, So it's time now. We're a month out, hypothetically, and it's time to start talking and putting some strategies in place for that now.
Yeah.
But look, guys, we're coming up to about 45 minutes. I'm happy to keep going if you want to keep the conversation going, or we can stop this. Yep.
One point I wanted to bring up, because I actually spoke to a couple of, and you guys might have an impact on, a comment on this, but I called a friend of mine who I used to work with in Noosa Council up in Queensland about some of the challenges they're having this morning, just to see, and something interesting she brought up, which I thought was an opportunity for our industry, was around the fact that obviously sporting organisations are coming back, footy teams and winter sports are wanting to extend their seasons. One of the big issues apparently that a lot of councils are having right now, which poses an opportunity, I think, for a fitness industry, is the fact that they have the winter sports and summer sports then wanting to all use the ovals and the public facilities. Mm-hmm. And they don't have enough facilities to facilitate that. She said it's been a problem forever, but it's really at the moment a huge issue. And they are really wanting, from a government point of view, the more we can work with them, gyms, to encourage and to work with sporting organisations and sporting teams to change their training regimes, which have been for, since the 60s have always been, we do 2 or 3 sessions on field a week. They're bringing athletes back in to start, competing. And often they haven't been doing their proper, depending on the level of sport, of course, but been doing their weight training or their gym program. And so there's potentially a huge opportunity for gyms to get involved with the sporting organisations and sporting teams. And I just thought it was a really interesting point that I wasn't aware of prior to giving her a call, that what's going on in local government, that could be a really great opportunity to get members in to offer some programs for sporting teams. And it may not, they don't have huge budgets, but it's also bring that community and the potential for longer term income in.
So Eddie, what you're saying is there's a golden bullet. There's another opportunity. If we look outside of our circle at the moment, there is other opportunities that we haven't thought of yet.
Yeah, I think that's just one I became aware of, but I think this is a real time where, as we've said, it's going to be tough for the fitness industry for a while yet. Opening the doors isn't going to be the end of the problems, and I think it could be a really great gift where, one, we're going to be able to collaborate with other industries, but also in our own industry. If you can't negotiate your rents well enough, then combining with other businesses, it's a time that we really have to think outside of how we have been doing things until now. And yes, we all know the online is now a new way of being, but there's so many other things here that that could be huge opportunities. And that was one that just, that I heard today from one phone call. There's probably a whole lot more.
Yeah, good point. I see here in our community, I've seen a huge increase of number of people walking around the community, going for their afternoon walks with the kids, the wives, and whatever, girlfriends and husbands and all that sort of stuff. It's just amazing. But also the number of bikes, push bikes, that are just getting around the streets is just phenomenal. Is that going to be the new norm? Is it, maybe there's been a great thing in a way to get people out and active, and maybe the opportunity is getting them back from the street back into our centres,
And or supporting them for doing it at home. If they're all getting bikes as gyms, we can get group buy-in, doing some of that stuff for our members. It doesn't, in the end, you're going to get more referrals for it. It's not lost.
I've got two thoughts on it. First one is, I agree. It's fantastic to see so many people out walking, and particularly families, like mum, dad, the kids, the dog. By the way, have you seen the meme with the dog standing on top of the cupboard in the kitchen looking down at the family and saying, "I do not want to go for another fucking walk"?
No, but that's the perfect meme for it.
Love it. My dog's on the third walk right now with my wife and child. So my dog's like, "I don't want this." So I think that is one of the most beautiful things about this is we've seen families go out and walk together. I am dying to do a straw poll one day when I'm out walking and ask people, "Are you a member of a gym?" Because remember, all gyms are closed. So are the people that we're seeing walking normally people that would go to the gym?
Correct.
Or are they new people to walking? And therefore, when the gym's open, there's a whole bunch of new prospects that have kind of got their feet wet in this thing called exercise, and maybe they want to go to the new level. Honestly, I don't think we know. But what I do hope, and I really do pray, is that after this, families do continue to walk together, because I think it really is a beautiful thing for our society.
Yeah.
Oh, look, 100%. Where we live, there's a promenade, and along the beach, and I can honestly say, I've never seen so many people at all hours of the day walking along the promenade, just enjoying the beauty that they've probably they've just taken for granted, And I think, as you say, look, I just hope that's the new norm. And, we birth a whole new generation of young people and older people that are active, JT, so in all aspects of life, healthy bodies, healthy mind.
Yeah, I would love to touch on that, JT. We're getting a bit of a survey within our corporate companies that we work with right now, and we're actually finding that people were not interested in the gym, in fitness, or anything before COVID are now going, you know what? I actually want a swipe card. I want a swipe card to the gym.
Yeah.
And I believe, in particular in the gyms that we have in our corporate clients, that we're going to see a really big spike.
Was he not wearing a shirt?
He was wearing a screen grab there.
He is not wearing a shirt.
Paparazzi.
He's not wearing a shirt.
Oh, and did you see him? There we go.
I don't know if he realized we could see him.
So I believe we're going to see, just wait for this point, it's a good one. I believe we're going to see a really big spike with people that weren't training in the gym. And I think those people that are out walking, there's a lot of them that weren't at the gym before, and they're actually getting more engaged. It's been a huge shift. I think that it's going to be tough because we have to separate the bikes. We need to decrease equipment, and we can't let everybody in. But I think there's more people that will want to get in. And I mean, they just released on Fitness Australia this week when they did a survey that 85% of members were going to be coming back. So we know that that bodes well for the current members. And within the surveys we've been doing, we've seen a huge influx of those hard to reach 10 to 20% that you just go, oh, they'll never come in. They're putting their hands up to actually come into the gym now. So I think it's going to be an exciting time for our industry.
with one of our clients we work with in the States. 14 of their clubs open on Monday, and when we had a catch up on Wednesday, so they'd only been open 3 full days.
Yeah.
I think they'd sold 20-something, 30-something memberships, but every single membership came from someone who was not an old lead. They were a brand new lead.
Yeah.
They'd only opened on Monday. They'd called up and they'd come in and joined within 3 days. So I think you're like, anecdotally, if that continues in the US, it's probably going to happen here as well, which is really exciting that we have these new prospects. What I believe, and I really hope, again, as an industry, that we don't enter a price war and discount our prices, because we actually have a high demand, and therefore we don't need to drop our prices to get people to join. People will join at a price that we need to charge, and we probably even need to charge more if we've got more cleaning that's got to happen.
More cleaning and more floor space that's going to be untouched. So
Correct.
I think that's probably one of the biggest issues, is how much our lease is in comparison to how many people we can currently have in the gym for classes, etc. So yeah, we need to be fair to ourselves. It's a great point.
So guys, look, I think we, unless you've got something else that we should cover, but I think we should wrap up there for today. I think we've covered a huge, broad spectrum of things that I think are really exciting. You know, hopefully we've given some people that are listening or watching this some information that they can go away with, or inspire them to actually go away and ask some questions. You know, so I think that's really cool.
One question that's just come through there is an interesting one, Richard. What about contact gyms like boxing, MMA, etc.? So what do we see with the foreseeable future? Yeah.
I think it'll be called Shadow MMA.
That's it. And that's already begun. I agree.
I honestly, I mean, I could be disrespectful about their members and that they won't care about COVID, but there could be a few that will. I just don't think the government's going to let it happen until, which is kind of weird because they're letting rugby league happen, which is contact.
Yeah.
But
I guess it's slightly smaller numbers though.
yeah, and a controlled environment.
Yeah.
But I can't see MMA or boxing really being allowed till mid-July, August. Who knows?
Yeah, even if that, because of the social distancing rules that are in place.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And not to say that they can't do shadow boxing, you know, power bags, etc. But I agree with your point.
So whoever, if anyone knows an equipment distributor, maybe if they got like one of those really heavy bags shaped like human beings, they can sell them to the MMA clubs.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's going to be very different, and you know, like even if we come back into traditional gym land, you know, where we've got you know, spin bikes and class group fitnesses, you know, again, you know, it's a similar thing, isn't it? You know, yes, there's social distancing, but all of a sudden you're going to have half the number of people in these centres, you know, so you know, the discussion goes on how and when and why, you know, really, really interesting.
Yeah, it's true.
Continued.
Maybe that's a good discussion point for next week. Maybe we talk about, you know, business models and opportunities there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%, guys. Okay, guys, we'll finish it there unless we've got another question there. Have we got any more questions there, guys?
No, and the gentleman who owns the gym just put already on it. Ha ha ha.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's importing those stuffed dummies now.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for this afternoon. Look forward to next Friday, same time. And yeah, look, it's going to be another exciting week with the development, whatever comes out of each state. I guess today, you know, we've we've seen a plan, you know, from the government, some sort of a structure, a bit of an idea about where we're going. There's light at the end of the tunnel, that they have some idea of the stages that we're going to roll through and move through this. So thank you all very much. Fantastic, guys. Thanks again for your time, and let's catch up again next week.
Thank you, Richard.
Good on you guys. Thank you.
Ciao.